answer. I didn't tell people on the radio, this was good. I didn't tell people on the radio because, and he admits, he says, if the casino went through, he was gonna have equity. Okay. But he says, I didn't tell people because technically I had nothing until it got approved. He said after it got approved, he was gonna tell people. I'm like, oh really? Oh really? Okay. Okay.
Akademiks finally gave us his thoughts after sitting down with Charlamagne for what he says was a 3-hour conversation. Now, Ak came back to the internet saying that he won 9-3. Okay, but after listening to over 50 minutes, almost an hour of his recap, that was not the part that stood out to me, because we all know the headlines that have been circulating. And the moment he kept coming back to wasn't Drake, it wasn't Jay-Z, it wasn't even Roc Nation. It was one question about the casino. And according to Akademiks, that's where he feels Charlamagne never really answered him. So let's talk about it.
It was filmed at WTF Studio. We're discussing how we're gonna put it out. I elected and voted for both of us putting it on our individual channels same time. I think at first, there was this idea that he puts up half, I put up half, you kind of watch both, you kind of show whatever. But I think I don't give a damn if y'all watch it on his channel, my channel, as long as y'all see it. So I think if we get the full file today by Alex Media, I think we're good to go. I think. So maybe tomorrow?
First off, I like that they're actually putting the full interview out, hopefully in one clip like he said, because context does matter in a conversation like this, instead of jumping from channel to channel to see the whole thing. You can't just clip up a 3-hour discussion into all those parts and think everybody's going to walk away with the same understanding. So I was glad to hear him say, just release the whole thing, regardless of whose channel it is on.
I could tell you my takeaways. I was happy with how the conversation went. I was happy with how the conversation went. Big takeaways is that, number one, we're definitely at war with Roc Nation. That was the big takeaway. We're definitely at war. Number two, I don't think they updated Charlamagne on the talking points because he was hitting me with the same brilliant idiot. This man's a little like that. It's all good. Number three, what was definitely, I do believe, is sincere. I think Charlamagne was like, I don't think he's trying to go to war fully behind it, and I think he does see some, at least what he's telling me, he values our relationship. So that's more of what he kind of cares about. But it was a lot of gaslighting. I ain't gonna lie to you. That gaslit me like, I'm not even gonna lie. That gaslit me about anything I was mentioning. You know what I mean? Yeah, y'all gotta see this.
Now, during his recap, I noticed that Akademiks keep saying gaslighting over and over. Now, we all know all words like this have been strewn all over the content streets. Now, maybe that's exactly how he walked away feeling, but he kept steering everything back toward Roc Nation and eventually the casino.
I scored 9-3. I ain't gonna lie to you. If we're gonna be adversarial, this wasn't supposed to be adversarial though, but I scored 9-3. First 9 rounds is me. My bad. The first 9 rounds is me. But the last 3 rounds, I'm gonna give it to him. You know why? Because that's where Charlotte shines through. Like we do get to a point, it's 3 hours, where we start talking about career, how to become better, how to lead, how to have people look up to you, and how to move on. And also how to bring this hip-hop media shit together. I like that. I really like that. And, that was probably, if you watch the whole interview, you'll notice that's the time I'm the quietest, because there is still a lot to learn from someone like Charlamagne. But with the two.
Now, if your attention got lost on the he won 9 rounds to Charlamagne's 3, and maybe he did, time will tell, we will see when they drop that interview, but also maybe he didn't. So who knows? We haven't seen the interview yet. But I don't even think that that is the part that matters in this scorecard. If one moment actually changed the conversation based on what Akademiks was saying, I think I know which moment he believes that was.
The casino explanation was hilarious. The casino explanation, Charlotte was like, yo, Ak. He's like, but I did tell people. I said, Charlotte, yeah, you told people, AKA you, the info technically was out there, but for them to go find it, you know ain't nobody gonna find that bull. You know, well. And then I said, well, why didn't you tell people on the radio? Well, I didn't tell people on the radio. This is his answer. I didn't tell people on the radio. This was good. I didn't tell people on the radio because, and he admits, he says, if the casino went through, he was going to have equity. Okay. But he says, I didn't tell people because technically I had nothing until it got approved. He said after it got approved, he was going to tell people. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, really? Okay. But that's what he said. He said, so, because he did this thing where he's like, do you know if me invested in other things? I said, yes, I know you invested in crystals, a bunch of those. He said, well, why do you know it? I said, well, you said it. He said, well, what else you know I invested in or I'm in part? I said, well, I do know that you and Raekwon did something with some dispensaries. He said, how do you know? He said, I said it. I said, okay, I get what you're going with this, but why didn't you say the thing about the casino? Why? And he told me, he said, well, I didn't say it. He said, number one, it was public. I said, come on, you know, anybody finding that website, bro. You know, nobody ain't finding it. He said, well, there was nothing to tell until it got approved. But I said to him, I said, well, you're on the air kind of like promoting the shit. Why not just let people know? And I didn't want to do to him what I think he was initially trying. You know, he didn't do it in the interview, but like, I didn't want to have a legal conversation with him. So I avoided saying, well, you know, you could have been violating, blah, 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 blah. But he did mention during the interview, he said, the people he needed to disclose it to, he did. And he said it was the government, and he did disclose it to his employer, which is iHeartMedia. But I then fired back, but what about the audience who you were telling that New York City needs it?
And that right there is the conversation I think everybody is waiting to hear. That is the part of the interview everybody is going to be tuned into, because I don't think Akademiks was actually arguing about whether Charlamagne broke any laws or anything like that. He is talking about transparency. And that is the argument he is standing on. Because in Ak's mind, if you're using your platform to publicly support a casino project, and if you stand to benefit from that project, once it is approved, shouldn't your audience know that while you're talking about it? They should know what your interest is in it. And that's the question that Akademiks keeps asking. In other words, if he had never went and stumbled upon those records, he never felt like Charlamagne was going to come out with it. And he definitely walked away feeling like Charlamagne didn't actually answer that part in the interview.
I didn't really get an answer for that one. Chat.
And I think this is why Akademiks really walked away feeling like he won, because in his mind, Charlamagne answered, here's why I didn't think I had to disclose it. But he never really answered, should your audience have known anyway? Those are two different questions.
Bumps me at times, but I'm pretty knowledgeable on everything I've been talking about. When I heard him regurgitate certain things, and then I was stopping him. I said, okay, you keep saying you have these gotcha things on crypto, gambling, on Drake, whatever. Let's talk about it. Let's not just mention it. let's talk about it. So let's go over allegation 1. Every time I would get in depth, I realized Charlamagne don't even know what he's talking about, respectfully. Like, so once I seen that, I'm like, you can't show up to this conversation with Akademiks and you don't, like, you're supposed to know all the shit. You're supposed to, me, I'm streaming. So like, even now I'm talking. You're supposed to have some shit in the back pocket. Be like, all right, Ak, I know I ain't tell you this, but what about that? You're supposed to like, just throw some shit out there and surprise me. Nigga, he was talking about a whole bunch of non-factual shit. I was like, Charlie, that's fake, right? I had to bring up the Epstein shit. I'm like, nigga, I said, okay, so if we say Jay-Z's on Epstein list, he quickly corrects me. Well, acting but it's an anonymous tip. He's not really. Okay, got you. You're right. So when you mention these clearly fake and fraudulent things about either Drake, myself, or someone else, why don't you jump that quickly to like add the nuance and add the context? Well, I'm just reading I'm just reading the Epstein files. I'm just reading it. That's all I was doing. You see how, and that the clip you see went up was me saying, you see how when it's someone you care about, you're quick to dismiss the overall narrative because it's lacking context. But when it's someone that maybe you're trying to, that's why I say, it's a weak type of attempt at propaganda, I said, look at it. You're trying to get it over. No, and that, I basically said, that's why the propaganda from perceivably that side doesn't work anymore. Because I'm going to be honest with you, only a third grader would be fooled by that.
Here's where I think Akademiks gained confidence. He says once they started digging deeper, Charlamagne was not as prepared as he should have been. Again, that is Akademiks' opinion. This is his recap. We haven't seen the footage, but you can kind of hear in his voice that that's the point where he felt the conversation may have shifted a bit.
One thing, and this will be the last thing I say about the interview. One thing I definitely feel I was successful in getting through the Charlamagne. And even though he was trying to gaslight the fuck out of me, claiming that Jay-Z is so big and so important and so powerful, he doesn't give a fuck about just lowly, irrelevant, poor me, and he doesn't think about it, and I am almost like manic. He actually used the words like, yo, Ak, you're losing it. Right? He did admit after he tried to gaslight and get out of it, but trust me, I did a good job holding him to the point. I said, could you at least admit that the general conversation around Roc Nation, when they're mentioned by the general audience, it's met with a lot of distrust. It's met with a lot of, hey, these people are snakes. It's met with a lot of, hey, we don't think these people are for us anymore. And he tried to gaslight. He said, no, that's just you. Everybody loves Roc Nation. Really, nigga? He said, well, Ak, it's just you and what you're looking at, your algo. I said, really? He says, Ak, there's 140,000 people that's about to be celebrating Hove this weekend. And I said, Charlotte, we're not talking about music. The guy makes good music. He has made good music. I've never knocked him on his I do think Drake is greater, but I can't knock it that he's still a top 5 nigga, right? They're there to celebrate his music. They're there to celebrate Jay-Z's music. That's not a reflection of the public sentiment about Jay-Z or Roc Nation. The public sentiment reflection is in what's happening now. And I'll give you 2 reasons. And that's why I realized, I'm telling you, like, really wanted to make sure they don't edit this shit up. Because I'm telling you, I'm like, nigga, it's like, nigga, I'm like Javante in the 5th round. I'm just laying it on. I'm like Floyd. I'm like, boy, I'm laying it on at this point. Cause the gaslighting, I'm dodging everything, nigga. All right, that gaslight, come on. When I give 2 reasons. I says, reason number 1, Jay-Z, because remember he said Jay-Z's too big. He don't give a fuck. I said, so what? Why did he do an interview that said, I'm done playing defense. Now I'm playing offense.
And now everything comes full circle. This is why Akademiks keep saying he was being gaslit, at least in his eyes. And from his perspective, every time he raised concerns about Roc Nation, Charlamagne kept trying to convince him, nobody thinks that. That's just your algorithm. Everybody loves Roc Nation. So whether you agree with Akademiks or Charlamagne, that's going to be one of the biggest things that everybody is watching once this full interview finally drops. And I believe he said hopefully it'll be today, but it may be tomorrow. So after listening to Akademiks recap this interview, I don't even think it's about the who won 9-3 or whatever score Akademiks had. We all know the bigger story with this conversation was the casino and Akademiks getting answers about that. Out of everything they talked about over those 3 hours, that's the one topic that he seemed to be focused on. And that tells me he believes that's where the interview was won or lost. Now, whether he's right, we're all going to find out when the interview drops, because I think that's the moment that's really going to decide how people view this whole conversation. Did Charlamagne answer the question with transparency or in a way that made sense? Or does it leave people asking the same questions Akademiks is still asking? And that's what we'll be paying attention to. Not about the scorecard or who talked more, who got the last word. Now, he did say that he has a lot to learn still from Charlamagne, so I found that interesting. But again, kept going back to the casino conversation. And if Akademiks keeps bringing it up after a 3-hour interview, there's probably a reason he believes that is his strongest point. So I'm curious to see if you guys all walk away with the same feeling after we all get to watch it. Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about it in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend. And you can become a supporter if you enjoy rocking with yours truly, Chatterboxx. Until next time.